Hi, my name is Sheila Landry, and I'm going to show you how to apply a crackle finish on the little skeleton pieces that I'm doing for a project for Creative Woodworks and Craft. I've had a lot of people ask me to do a video, so I'm going to do a short one on that. Applying crackle on a piece with a lot of edges like this is a little bit different than a solid piece, because if you use a brush to brush on anything, it's going to get caught on the edges, and the edges will look really sloppy. And when I do finishes like this, for this project anyway, I like to leave the sides base coat color, because it brings out the color a little more and it gives it a little more dimension. First, I base coated the pieces with the Americana multi-surface satin paint. And this is a new paint by Deco Art. It's called multi-surface satin, and it has a base coat in it, a sealer, and a top coat all in one, and it's really good for indoor, outdoor. It sticks to glass, plastic. It has really nice adherence properties to it, and the finish is really good too. So I base coated all my pieces with that in the cocoa brown color, cocoa bean. And I put a layer of the weathered wood. I applied, it's a clear gel. I don't know if you can see it. And I applied it with a deerfoot stippler, which is what I'm going to apply the top coat with too. And the reason I use that is because I tapped the paint on instead of brushed it. And that way it kept it off the sides a little bit better than the other brush. So for putting the white, which is called Vanilla Shake, on, I'm using a 1/2 inch deerfoot stippler, and I'll put these on the side, and I'll show you some of the pieces here. What I did is I dampened the brush, and I'm going to put a generous amount of paint, nice size puddle. And to load the brush up, I'm going to tap it in so you can see there's a good amount of paint, but it's not really going up the bristles. And you want the paint to be pretty juicy, I call it, where it's pretty wet, but you don't want so much where it's going to drip over the edges. And when I start to do something like this, I'm going to start at one of the wider parts and walk the brush over. Just tap it on. Now you don't want to go back over too much where you already applied paint, because as soon as it starts to dry, the crackle bonds to it. I'm going to reload. As soon as it starts to get thin, I reload, and then I'm going to start at a thick part again. Hold my edges and work my way up to where I was. Now once it's on, you want to leave it, because it'll start to crack right away. Same thing for the skull. We'll start on the big part. And don't worry about the cracks in his head and the detail lines, because I'll show you in a bit how I dealt with that. So start on the thick parts and gently walk it over. Same thing here. You just want to put one good heavy layer of paint. And I'll show one more piece, the pelvis. And the thicker you paint, the thicker you apply the top coat of paint, the larger your cracks will be. Don't be afraid to apply too much. Though you don't want to slap it over the sides, but and if you miss a little corner here or there, like I did down there, you could go over that when it's all dry with the stippler brush. Okay, And I want to show you, you can see it's cracking already. Okay, so do your pieces like that. You can see the sides are pretty neat. There's a little bit on the top, as long as I don't pick them up too much and get it on my fingers. That's it. That's all there is to it. Okay, for the final segment on this project, what I wanted to do, I painted the skeleton pieces and I applied the crackle like I showed in the last video. And once everything is dry, I wanted to apply this DecoArt metallic luster to it to give it some shine. Now this is a new product by DecoArt, and it's a metallic wax that's water-based, which is really cool. It has a lot of real good possibilities in the painting, areas and woodworking areas, and it's all water-based. There's no smell to it at all. It's just a nice product. It looks absolutely beautiful. It comes in 6 colors. You can go to their site at decoart.com and see it. And because it's a wax, it gives you a lot of control as to how you're applying it. And now what I wanted to do for the skeletons, like I used the copper on this piece that had a rust colored base. You could barely see it, but it shimmers in a coppery tone, and it doesn't cover up the cracks. Now this was a gray. I used the silver on this. I used the black on this, on the black skeleton. And on all the fluorescent ones, I used the champagne, which is like a bone color. And I don't know how well the video picks it up, but it has a real cool shimmer to it. But unlike putting a liquid paint on that would have covered up all the cracks, it allows the cracks to show through, and even with the darker colors on the bigger skeletons, it enhances them. So the way you use this, for this application, you could see it's like a paste. And I took a palette knife. You don't need a lot, just a very little bit on the palette. And I use these little cosmetic sponges and some water. And I dip the sponge in the water, pick up a little bit of the wax, and then I just real lightly brushed it on. Could you see the difference? And it's very sheer, so you can see all the cracks yet, but it gives it a really cool shimmery look to it. You could play around with it. Since it's wet, you could use the back of the sponge to pull some off if you want. It does dry fast though. You could feel it getting sticky right away. And what I'm going to wind up doing is spraying it with a gloss spray. I wouldn't use a matte spray on it because it'll kill the metallic effect. Whenever you use metallic or glitter, which those of you who know me know I like, you don't use a lot. Now see, I'm just going very lightly. It's not a big change. It's very subtle how I'm using it here. I don't want it to be a sparkly skeleton, not in this case. I don't want to cover up all my crackle. But it's almost so easy to do, it's like hardly worth the video, except I wanted to show you how easy it was and how little you use. Now see, I only loaded the sponge once so far on this big piece. There he is. Gives it a really cool shine. And then when you're done, it just rinses with water. You clean up with water. There's no smell. You let it dry and then spray it, and then you're good to go.